Hey, everybody.
How's it going?
Hey.
We got a couple people on, more people logging in. Sorry, we're running a couple minutes late today. It's been a wild one because you know
It's
how
been
it
an
goes.
epic one.
That's how it goes.
That's right.
We're always working on this. So we'll wait till a few more people log in here. But thank you guys for joining us for our Fund to Flip information session. So we've had a lot of people asking us questions about how exactly does this work? And we really just wanted to have a chance for everybody to be able to ask questions, get some clarification. I'm actually loving this, the join us on our journey to
Yeah, I
billions
was
above your
like, I know, look at that. Nobody was strategic about that and the little red hair, but it's all good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So looks like we've got 20 people on and hopefully we'll get a few more, but that's amazing. So Thursday evening, I hope everybody is having an awesome one. And we've got a full house here with our marketing team. So hopefully we'll keep up and running with some good reception. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to spit out our words properly so we can get our points across.
We will.
Okay.
We will
Coco.
prevail.
Okay. So let's start with the basics, I guess. What is a fund to flip?
A fund to flip means you are our bank.
What?
Basically, what?
What? They're our bank?
They're our bank.
Oh,
right there.
perfect.
That's the breakdown.
Love it.
Actually, it's a little more complicated than that, but not much. Really and truly, it's a way to utilize underperforming registered funds, HELOCs, and cash so that you can get a set annual rate of return. That's it, right there in a nutshell.
So also known as private money lending. So some people might be doing that already. I mean, we're not rocket scientists. This is not something we developed. This is just something that we were taught in our real estate investing courses. Go work with other people's money, OPM. So that's essentially all we're doing. So what we're trying to do is educate other people that if you are investing in something and it's not working, maybe like the stock market, I don't know, right? Then this could be a good way to diversify your portfolio. So if you actually wanted to turn around and instead of putting your money in mutual funds or in the stocks, you could actually invest with people like us and invest in brick and mortar, backing real estate deals. And that's what we wanted to really break down for you guys here today. So I don't know who's all on the call, but if anybody's interested, no pressure. If anybody is a current fund to flip investor with us, do you guys want to put like a hell yeah or something in the chat box so that we can see what's happening or who's here? If everybody's new, I'm cool with that too. Or if you want to stay incognito, go under the radar, don't want to tell anybody what you're doing, that's cool too. No big deal.
We're just happy you're here.
Yeah, it's good. So if we have any good, Lori, yeah, that's my girl. So, oh, and we got Brad. Yep, that's awesome. So yeah, we love it. So at the end of the day, we do have a lot of people that work with us. Right now, we're over 160 investors. And again, this mixture, and I mean, adding dozens a month. And that is a mixture of fund to flip and hassle-free, but they go so well together. And we will actually touch base on that as to how everything goes full circle with our business. And that's what's kind of amazing about our business model. And it's funny because some people will say, oh, you're just real estate investors, I know what you're doing. And we're like, okay, cool. But if we break down the whole ecosystem for you, it's kind of magical, right? And that's what we love to be able to show people. This is what is happening. So
who doesn't like magic and unicorns?
Right? Printing cash out of thin air. It's fun and legal. How cool is that?
Yes.
So why don't we actually break that down right now?
Sure.
Full ecosystems. So basically from there, what happens is we find distressed properties or properties who are owned by distressed owners.
Either way, something's just distressed.
Something's broken. There's a reason that people need to get out of that property, whether it's a homeowner, whether it's an estate sale, whether it is just a distressed landlord who couldn't handle the tenants that they had in there or handle vacancies or whatever might have gone wrong, right? So basically we would go in and we would want to give a cash offer, no conditions, close in 5 days, right? So if you were a distressed owner and somebody came to you and said, hey, 5 days from now, this can all be gone and here's the money, right? If you were distressed, would you be more likely to take that offer than somebody who's like, no, I'm good. obviously, right? And so for us, that's why we're able to get the properties that we do. And because we have our amazing investors to work with, we can go in with cash deals and close on stuff really, really quickly. So a common misconception that we've been having right now is, and this is because we're pushing our 50 hassle-free landlord houses in 60 days. We've been having a lot of phone calls and people are like, well, I know you're not really doing the fund to flips right now. That is false. False, guys, false. Okay. We are doing tons.
All of the things.
We're just not featuring the fund to flip deals, but we've been buying over $1 million worth of properties every single week.
I get to go on shopping sprees.
Right? Because you have to remember how this works is we go in, we buy the distressed property, then we do a light renovation. Then from there, we get the property cash flowing because we put a tenant in there. Then we get the property reappraised at the new fair market value because now there's value to that property. We're not distressed. We don't have to sell the property, but we are willing to sell that property to our amazing hassle-free landlord owners. So then a hassle-free landlord owner says, yes, I want that property. So that hassle-free landlord owner is going to put the 20% down, get the mortgage, and then purchase that property. So then from there, that we still get to keep because we're in the partnership on the hassle-free landlord program. But essentially when that transaction happens, our fund to flip investor gets their money back. But when they get their money back, they don't want it. They're like, I don't want this. I don't want this.
Take it.
They're like, take it and make me more money.
Make it more. Make it like, we can't even see. I got to figure out the screen. Look at that. Can't see the screen because there's too much money.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, our investors always want to make sure that their money is out working. They don't want it in their bank account because it doesn't pay anything there, right? And so for us, this is why we have the endless deal flow. So the minute that we get the money back from the sale of a hassle-free landlord property, we go back to our fund to flip investor and say, hey, Mrs. or Mr., your money's coming back. Do you want it back? Because you can have it back, no big deal. But if you want to get it working again, we'll just go find a new property and keep it moving and working. So from there, at the end of the day, we pay a 10% annual rate of return on our fund to flip deals. Okay. So in order to make the full 10%, it has to run from deal to deal to deal. All right. So essentially, and this is where we're here and we're going to talk about the minutia and we're going to talk about all the behind the scenes things, but there's multiple ways that you could do a fund to flip. So one is you can use cash, you can use home equity line of credit, or if you don't have a home equity line of credit right now, but you have a property with lots of equity in it, we can introduce you to one of our Epic approved mortgage brokers and they can show you how to actually tap into your equity in your property by getting a home equity line of credit. Again, getting a home equity line of credit is going to be the cheapest money you're ever going to get access to because it's backed by a property.
You know what that is? You're making money off the bank. You are making money off the bank. You're getting rich by using the bank.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we are trying to encourage people and show people that, hey, if you're interested in the power of leveraging and
powerful.
You want to turn around and have access to that, and you're able to maybe borrow it from the bank at 3.5% and lend it out at 10%, you can make money.
This is true.
Right? So that's essentially just one of the ways. Then there's also the other way of using underperforming invested funds. So I don't know how many of you guys have money in the stocks. I don't know how many of you guys have been affected because of this whole pandemic thing that's been happening. But all I know is that our investors who work with us have not been affected. They've been getting their double-digit returns paid out like clockwork. And this is why when some people have been asking, well, how's your business? What's happening? And honestly, like we're booming and
doing very well.
Yeah. And the reason though, is because it's brick and mortar. It doesn't move up and down sporadically. It literally stays really steady. And if you notice a market going down, in our market where we invest. So those other markets that are all over the place, we don't invest there. So I'm not even going to talk about that. But again, this is why we're looking for really, really steady markets. It's safe, it's sound, not sexy. But that's what we do.
But we love them.
Yeah, exactly. It's predictable. And that's what, when you go to invest in something, I don't think that's a bad thing, right? You kind of know what to expect. You know what's coming to you. It makes it really easy to plan for your future. So if you've got underperforming invested funds, we can actually show you how to diversify by getting those out of mutual funds, out of GICs, maybe if it's at the bank, not making a lot, Or if it's in the stocks going like this and you want to get off that roller coaster, we can actually show you how to move those funds over to working with what's called a trust company. So this is all government regulated, right? Your money can actually get moved over to what's called a self-directed account. And this can be a TFSA, could be a LIRA, RSP, RDSP, RESP, any of the registered products that the government lets you defer taxes in. You can actually turn around, open an account at a trust company. And we work with Olympia Trust. They're based out of Alberta. We have a contact there. Everything runs pretty flawlessly. We always make sure that we are up to date on the paperwork. So it's just pretty seamless for us. And again, our goal is always to make everything as hassle-free as possible for all of our clients. Why? Because people are busy people, and we want to make sure that we have enough systems and team members in place here that we can make everything as flawless and seamless as possible. So at the end of the day, once you have the money moved over to Olympia Trust, so don't forget, you're not withdrawing, you're not like literally liquidating your accounts, you're just literally moving it. So you're just going from one institution to another.
So if, for example, if you're at the blue bank and you want to transfer it to the red bank, it's the equivalent.
So from there, once you have your money moved over to the trust company, now we can do what's called an arm's length mortgage. And basically that's how we're able to borrow the funds out of your account while it gets registered onto the property that we're flipping. And then once the project is finished, we would be paying that money back into your RSP or LIRA or TFSA, wherever we borrowed the money from. So at the end of the day, any of the returns you made were not a contribution. They end up being a growth. So some people get confused. They're like, wait, but if I have a TFSA and I end up making a lot of money in it, then that's going to be over contributing. But that's a myth. Because if you're able to get a high return in your account, it's just a contribution. Just as if you had made a really good return in the stock market. I mean, I've heard it happen. I've never seen it, but I heard it exists. So it's the same thing. So should we talk about the Ninja Flip now?
Oh yeah, we are gonna break that one out, folks.
Okay.
Ninja.
So Bailey made our awesome props.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bailey. So from here, what we do is we call this the Ninja Flip. And some people are like, yeah, okay. But the magic here is that we actually work with our clients to get them as much money as they can. And at one of these things with the Ninja Flip is that we can actually get our clients up to 29% in their TFSAs.
What? Repeat that.
I know, right? How many of you guys might be interested in that? Raise your hand or give another maybe, oh boy, if you are interested, okay? So from here, yeah, raise hands, I like it, I like it. So what happens, and we might have to move to the board to explain this one, just because there's a lot of numbers and I don't wanna lose people. Not saying you all aren't smart. I'm just saying it's a really advanced strategy, and I will suggest that people are going to turn around and you want to write notes on this because it is something that people are like, what? I just don't understand. Sounds too good to be true. Doesn't make sense. What's happening? But honestly, for us, it's just a weighting, and it just turns around and ends up being a percentage breakdown. That's it. That's all. Should we go through it now, or should we finish with this other stuff?
I think we should answer questions and then do numbers.
Okay, I guess we're gonna leave you guys in suspense. Okay, so it was her. She's the bad guy.
Right? I'm always the bad guy.
Okay, so we've got some questions here we will talk about, and then we'll break into the numbers and we'll walk you guys through some actual real life examples on the board after this.
Okay, we have from Alan. How much lead time do you need for Olympia to provide TFSA funds to your lawyer? From the date I put my request into Olympia.
Yeah, so great question. So essentially when it comes to working with Olympia Trust, what happens is you would come to us and say, hey, I have this much money ready to go. And then from there, we would identify the project that you're going to be lending on. And then from there, we do all of our paperwork in-house. We send it to you to sign. And we have had requests go in as little as 2 days to our lawyers, and they're able to withdraw the funds on the purchase date. So very short timelines. But again, we also work with very highly trained lawyers, and they are really next level. So I wouldn't ever suggest that someone else could go in and make this happen. But again, because of our well-oiled machines and our systems, we do this every week.
Absolutely. Another one. So, that's Lily. So with the rate that you have, and the flip will not last a year, how can I maximize the use of my money?
Good question. So we kind of touched on this before, but essentially we always do the returns in the annual rate of return. And it's always going to be based off of a 10% annual rate of return. Unless you're one of our older investors, you would have been grandfathered in at the other rates. But for new investors, it's 10% annual rate of return. And if you start working with us, you'll always be grandfathered in at whatever rates you come in and work with us at, providing you stay active as an investor in that investment opportunity. Again, it's kind of how we give back to the clients and investors who started working with us before we were a proven model, right? They kind of took a risk. And so that's how we are able to best honor them. So with that, what would happen is the minute that you get the money back, we would generally give you about a 2-week heads up that the money's coming back to you. And then if you just wanted to keep it running, you would just say, here's my money back, Epic, go find me another deal. And then we'll literally put it to work right away after that deal. And so then that way at the end of the year, you might have been paid out 2 to 3 times, but it'll add up to the full 10% annual rate of return. And this is another question I get from a lot of people. They'll say, what's the chance that you pay me my money back and then you don't have a deal for me? Yeah, that. So essentially, we're never not going to have a deal for you. So if somebody says, no, I've got, $500,000 slated for you guys, let's go. We just go shopping. Mm-hmm. That's just our business model, right? So, right now, Saskatoon properties, we have kind of dried up the market. Last year, we were pretty much buying, we were pretty much buying 20 houses a month, most of them straight off MLS. So we did take up and suck up a lot of the inventory. Again, right now, we've got a lot of bird dogs finding properties. We've got a lot of wholesalers still selling us stuff, which is great. Mm-hmm. But this is why we actually transitioned and expanded to another Saskatchewan city, which we're working on right now. So eventually that city will dry up. And again, we'll still always have little trailers, but not to the volume and the extent of what we're buying right now. So eventually we'll just expand into another city and then another city. And you get the idea. We'll just keep growing.
Absolutely.
There was another one there, I think.
Oh, yeah. It was basically just an example.
Okay.
For me before the flip is done. You answered all of it.
Okay.
I didn't say it. Right. Okay. With the investor in first position at purchase, do you have other investors in second place for cash buys? Also, do you ever put some of Epic's money in the deal? Question from Anonymous.
Ooh. Okay, so great question. Generally, what we prefer to do is we like to have one investor on a deal by themselves, or sometimes there's married couples, or sometimes there's friends who know each other and they'll go on the deal in their
transaction together.
Yeah. And so that's how we prefer to do it. But at the other side of it, we always try to work with people where they're at. So sometimes we might have an investor who says, hey, I have $50,000 in my TFSA, or I have $50,000 in my RSPs, or anything you can do with that. So what we'll always say is, again, yes, the answer is always yes. We're not going to say, no, we can't work with you, right? We literally pride ourselves on being able to help the underdogs and the little guys get ahead. So if that's what you've got, yep, we can work with you. Usually what would happen is you would say, hey, I've got $27,000 in my TFSA or RSP. I'm ready to go. So we would work with you. We would negotiate a rate that works for both of us. And then what we would do, once you have got the funds transferred over to Olympia, then at the end of the day, we would piggyback you onto somebody else's deal. Okay, now with that being said, we prefer to have the one investor on one deal because it's nice and clean, but we do try to help all people at all areas. So if we had a deal for $250,000 and then we had one investor who had $223,000 in their lira, and then I had this $27,000 investor, we might put the bigger guy in the first mortgage position and the little guy in the second mortgage position on the same deal, and then we have our full project. So it does happen. We don't generally look for that, but the odds time we get little odds and ends. And so you would never not know if there was going to be somebody registered on a deal behind you. We are always full disclosure of that. And we always say, this is how it's going to be strategized. Are you okay with that? And again, at the end of the day, the first mortgage position person really doesn't care, because whoever it is in the second or third mortgage position, they're the ones who are taking the higher risk in theory, because if anything were ever to happen and you had to foreclose on the property, first mortgage position always has the best power, second mortgage, third mortgage. Again, this is why people have trust in us and they know that they're not going to have to worry about any of that stuff, but that's how it works.
So, Donna, what are the fees in and out at Olympia? Yes,
Olympia does charge fees. So they're basically a glorified bank account. So what happens is when you open an account, that first account, and it has to happen per person. and then per type. So if you have one person has a TFSA, that has to be one account. If they had an RSP, that's another account. If you have a LIRA, that's another account. If you have an RESP, that's another account. You can see how the fees would add up. But again, if you've got a lot of money in each of those accounts, then it probably makes financial sense. But when you open up a new account, it's going to be $150 per account. Okay. And this is all plus taxes. So that's just to open up the account. And then that's an annual fee. Now, when we go to do, the arm's length mortgage, there's going to be more fees incurred. So Olympia Trust is going to charge $150 mortgage registration fee. And so every time the investor, and these are your guys' costs, okay? This is something you have to factor into your side, because we already pay the legal costs on our end to get everything registered properly so that we can actually secure your stuff on title to do this deal. So Olympia Trust fees are on you. We'll deal with the legal side of registering everything. So when you open up that account, the mortgage, it's $150. And then there's going to be a $15 a month account mortgage fee that Olympia charges. And then when the deal is done, there's a $25 discharge. So it sounds like a lot of money, but if you think about it, and if you had $100,000 in your Olympia Trust account and we were using it to do a mortgage, in 1 year, you would have earned $10,000 of interest. And so say that on the back, on the high side, we had used your money 2 times on deals. So altogether, your interest rate might have been anywhere from interest charges or account fees might have been anywhere from $600 to $1,000. So yes, you would factor that into the deal. At the end of the day, you still made 9% on your money. Not that bad, right? And that you just have to run your numbers and see if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense for you, then don't do it. No big deal. But most of our investors, they see it. It doesn't.
I think we answered Brian then. Are the fees included in the deal and paid back in the end?
Yeah, so we don't reimburse fees. When we first started, we used to, and honestly, it's more a logistical nightmare on our side than anything, and that's why we stopped doing it. I literally have to hire somebody full time just to calculate everybody's fees and invoicing and stuff. And I was like, you know what? Our investors get paid really, really well. And it's kind of the fact that you can make double-digit returns within your registered funds. I think that's bonus enough. So that's why we made the executive decision to no longer reimburse them. Mm-hmm. And again, at the end of the day, if it doesn't make financial sense, no worries, don't do it.
Good. And then Donna, what about the legal fees?
So thanks, Donna. So with that, we cover the legal costs. So basically, just to break it down, every time that you're paying that $150 to register the mortgage on title, we're paying about $500 in legal costs, right? And we pick that up, no big deal. That's the transactional cost. So that's just the fair way we looked at doing this. And yeah, so in theory, we do let people use up to 3 sources on a flip. So that could be a TFSA, a LIRA, and cash, or whatever it might be. It might be 2 TFSAs and a home equity line of credit money, whatever that turns into be. So every time that we register a separate mortgage, and basically if it has a different interest rate, so we talked about the Ninja Flip, which would have 2 different interest rates, those are going to have to be registered in separate mortgage positions. So every time we have a new mortgage position, we pay $500 at the lawyers to register that. So the fact that we don't bill out any of that to our clients, and we basically do that for you guys to help you better get ahead, that's just the best way we figured it would make sense to leverage that.
Okay. Vic, how can I use existing funds from my RSP and still keep the funds within the RSP?
So Vic, this comes down to Olympia Trust. You have to move your funds over to a trust company. So there's about 4 trust companies across Canada right now. We solely work with Olympia Trust. We wanted to just have one go-to. And so even if somebody has their funds at a different trust company and wanted to work with us, they would have to transfer their funds over at Olympia Trust. It's just the way our systems work. Again, for us, the only way we're ever going to get to the journey to $1 billion is if we systemize everything and we just wash, rinse, and repeat. So for us, it's just making it easy. You have to go through Olympia Trust. And if you want to book in a one-on-one session, we can look at your specific situation, see if it makes financial sense for you to move. I don't know what you're making in the stocks. Maybe you are making 15%. That might be great. Stay there then. No big deal. It's not a best fit for everybody, but if you want to book in a discovery call, we can look at your specific situation and see if we can craft a better transaction or a better use of your funds and your returns catered to you.
Yeah, really the call is the key, because that is exactly it. We're going to focus on you, your why, what are you trying to achieve, so we can really customize it. Okay, Donna, do you actually give us back the money and then we have to pay it back for the new deal? Just wondering about time for all the banking.
So there's a couple things here. One is I do have some clients that are out of the country. And so for them signing the discharge, and we can go through that. So there's different ways that deals happen. So if it's cash, what happens, it's really basic. There is no trust company. If it's cash, it literally goes through you guys and directly through the lawyer's trust account. So what happens is we're going to talk about the deal. You're going to say, yep, that sounds great for me. These are the returns. This is the property. We're going to talk about that by email. Then from there, we're going to fill out what's called a mortgage commitment. It's just a one-page form that really talks about all the details. And then it has the lender's info, which is your info. And then we provide that to our lawyer. Sorry, we get that you to sign that first, and then we provide that to the lawyer. When the lawyer has it, they're going to dissect that information from in there, and they're going to input that into the mortgage document that we actually have to go in and sign as the borrowers. You don't have to sign that. We're borrowing, so we have to sign that. And then at the end of the day, the lawyer is going to send that to you and say, hey, does all this look right and correct? Your address and your name and all that. And if you're good with it, then please transfer this much amount of money for the deal into our trust account. And our lawyers deal with RBC. So if you deal there, you can literally transfer it right into their bank account. Some people choose to wire the funds. It's about $50 if you wire, or you can get a bank draft and literally walk it over to RBC and put it in their bank account. There's lots of different ways you can do this, but the transaction is really pretty easy. That's going into the deal. Now you're going to sit on that deal for, up to 6 months. And then at the end of it, when we give you the 2-week heads up and say, hey, that money's coming back to you, you decide what you want to do. And this goes back to what Donna's question is, do we actually physically get the money back? So if we know that we have another deal right away, and it doesn't really make sense for you to go and take that money back because you're literally funding another deal in 2 days, you can actually give our lawyers the heads up that, hey, keep this money in your trust account, please, and transfer it over to this next deal. And then you can choose to get interest paid out or whatever. So again, it always comes down to communication. So we have a lot of clients who travel a lot, or they might not want to go into the lawyers all the time. And so this is where if you said, hey, flip it onto another deal, let's make this happen, we can definitely do that and go from there. You don't have to actually take it, but you can. And it would have to come off of that deal though and onto another. And there would be paperwork that has to be signed for the discharge and everything after that.
Cool. All right, Brian, what about the appraisal fee?
So the appraisal fee, we pay for that obviously, but we actually only have the appraisal done once the property is actually flipped and finished. So again, we just look at it like it's part of our process. It's part of the closing fee, part of the project fee. So there's no extra fees for our clients. Some people, just to be fully transparent here, sometimes if somebody's new, or I guess used to the idea of traditional private money lending, sometimes people will come to us and they're like, hey, I've lent money out on deals before. I know what this looks like. And then they might come to us and say, okay, well, I'm going to pay for 80% of the deal. And then Epic is going to throw in some of this money. And we're like, yeah, no, that's not what happens here. So just to be clear, we do not put any money into our projects. Okay, that's what the investors bring to the table. So our investors actually cover the full purchase and the reno budget on our deals. So sometimes we've talked to people who are seasoned, private money lenders, and they're like, nope, that doesn't work for me. And we'll say, okay, good, don't invest with us. Don't invest with us then. No big deal. It's just the way we work. Again, for us, like we're literally finding properties. We're literally renovating the properties. We're literally managing the contractors and all the trades, and then we're getting it sold. I think we're doing enough.
Well, and I mean, we really don't get paid till all of that happens. So, we're going to hustle to make it happen.
Exactly.
Okay. So I've got Annie has also interested in U.S. investing. Should I wait to hear about that?
For U.S. investing, we're going to be started in the U.S. probably by July. It is in the works. We are starting on the corporation. I know we've been talking about that for a long time. COVID. But at the end of the day, we are, obviously held up a little bit. So things will get back to normal the minute the borders open. I mean, I'm gone. I'm down there. It's going to be full-fledged ahead. In the meantime, it's been a little slow. Now, if you have money in the States, then by all means, I would say come in and invest with us in the States. But I would never suggest that a Canadian transfers Canadian funds to US with the shitty exchange right now. That makes zero sense.
You're at a 30% loss just transferring the money. It does not make sense.
Especially when you're going to turn around and make the same returns, right? The reason we're going into the States is because we have a wait list of US investors who are dying to work with us. So we want to go out there and say, here we go, guys, let's make this happen. And the returns are going to be the same. The fund to flip investors down there are going to get 10% on their money, and the hassle-free landlord owners are getting 15. It's the same thing. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, just it's kind of sexy to have a US property. Again, don't be emotional about it, guys. Be logical. Let's turn on our brains and use those.
So Annie said, Anne, my bad. I'm planning to transfer 60,000 to TFSA in 2020. Is there a minimum contribution to fund to flip?
Great question. So the minimum contribution for a full flip or being in the first mortgage position is $100,000. Okay. And the reason is because it's going to be for the purchase and the renovation on the property. Now, like we said before, and we work with people where they're at. So if you have 60,000, no big deal. As long as you're willing to go in a second or a third mortgage position, we can still utilize your funds and you can still do a fund to flip, but it'll be a partial fund to flip. It won't be a whole deal.
There you go. And I believe we answered this, but I will read it just in case. It's from Anonymous. Is the fund to flip investor taking 100% of the risk, or does Epic put any down payment money in the deal on these discounted or motivated seller cash purchases?
I already answered that. And
there you go.
No.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, again, if that doesn't work for your investment model or your risk opportunity, then don't work with us. No big deal, guys. We're not everybody's cup of tea.
Okay, Donna, what happens if next deal is either more or less than the original deal with payout funds? Do you try to find the same house value?
Yeah, so we're always going to go off of what you want to do. So let's just say that you did a deal and it was for $200,000. And then 6 months later, whatever, you end up making $20,000. I know those numbers are skewed, but whatever. So you end up making, now you have $220,000 getting paid out. It's up to you. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. Mm-hmm. If you want to compound the full principal and all the interest, and so we can put the full $220,000 to work, no big deal. Let us know. Or if you wanted to take the $20,000 worth of interest and just turn around and invest that same principal of $200,000, no big deal. Just let us know. Or if you wanted to go and bring in your TFSA of $60,000, now you wanted to do $200,000 of the principal and $60,000 worth of the TFSA and do a ninja flip. And so we're going to have $260,000. No big deal. Just let us know. Or it could go on forever, guys.
Yeah, again, and customizable.
Exactly. So this is why I always say, book in a call. Let's talk about your specific situation and let's get you to your future financial goals even faster.
Okay, I think we have just enough time for maybe I see you, Bailey.
Yeah, Bailey's going to read questions.
Brian asks, do you pay out monthly or only at the end of the flip?
Great question. Only at the end of the flip. So if investors want to work with us and they say, I want to get paid monthly, we're like, hassle-free.
Hassle-free.
Right? Again, that's the only investment opportunity that we have that pays a monthly return. And it just comes down to, because we get paid rent monthly, so then therefore we distribute it to the investors monthly. Whereas on the fund to flip, we don't get paid out until the end of the deal when the house is sold. So therefore that's when we pay all the returns back to the investor.
And one other question from Anonymous, who we now know is Dawn. Percent return is the same whether in first, second, or third position?
Yep, good question. Yeah, generally it's the same. It's 10% annual rate of return. Again, we always try to work with people where they're at. So yeah, and at the end of the day, when you're calculating your Olympia Trust deductions, if you're making 10% and the Olympia Trust fees end up taking a percentage, the smaller amount, because they're fixed fees, right? So the smaller amount of money you have, obviously those fees are going to affect your returns higher than somebody who has $200,000. So yeah, so the fees are the same.
And Donna says, in the ninja flip, do the TFSA funds have to go back to Olympia before the next deal?
Yeah. So whenever you're lending out of your Olympia Trust accounts, the money that we have borrowed your funds out for has to go back into your Olympia Trust account. And we'll get on the board here shortly and we'll crunch numbers. But if you're lending out and making 29% in your TFSA, then in order for Olympia Trust to unregister or discharge, I should say, the actual mortgage, then you're going to have to get paid the full principal plus the accrued interest for however long we borrowed your funds for, because it's always going to be a prorated amount, right? We borrowed it for 6 months, then you're going to get half of the full annual rate of return, and then that gets paid back into your Olympia Trust account. And then from there, if you said, okay, with $60,000, I made $20,000. Now I have $80,000. If you wanted to take $20,000 and go buy a car, you do you, man. Totally your call. You decide what you want to do. In my opinion, I would say if you possibly can, let's just compound that so that essentially in 3 years, you've literally doubled your money completely tax-free. But hey, you do you.
And to follow up with that, does that affect timing for the next deal?
So for us, we can only move as fast as our investors. So for example, we have 11 hassle-free landlord houses closing next week. Whoop, whoop. 50 houses in 60 days, y'all. But at the end of the day, when I reach out to those investor clients on the fund to flip and say, hey, your money's coming back to you next week, just expect to hear from the lawyer, whatever. And then if they don't get back to me for 2 weeks and then they get paid back their money and their money sat in their bank account forever or however long, I mean, 2 weeks for me, forever, right? But at the end of the day, if you get your money back and you didn't tell me that you wanted to do another deal and I didn't go and line up another property for you because you didn't communicate with me, that's on you. That has nothing to do with us not having a deal for you. That has to do with your lack of communication. And we have had this happen. And again, we left the ball in your court. We told you the money was coming back. We're not going to chase you to invest with us. It's just not our style. We got a lot of things happening and we got a lot of people wanting to work with us and communicate really, really well. So the minute you say, go find me another deal, we'll go find another deal and put that to work right away.
And I think a good segue into moving on to the board, Dawn says, how can I get more info on the Ninja Flip? I had a brain fart and didn't totally get it.
We're going to go through the numbers, Dawn, and I'm pretty sure this will clear it up because even really savvy investors, even financial planners, when I try to break this down, I lose them too. So
you need the numbers.
Not just you.
Yeah.
So let's get on the board now, and then we will break this down for you guys.
By the way, nope.
Let's go purple this time. So at the end of the day, I'm going to walk through a regular flip. Okay, so this regular flip, I think I'm looking here. Okay, we switched cameras, so now I'm like, a lot. Okay, so for a regular flip, let's just say that you were going to do a deal for $250,000. Okay, so this is just going to be.
Yes.
This is just a regular fund to flip. Okay, I'm not going to break down what the purchase price would have been and what the renovations would have been because we don't even break that down for the clients that invest in these deals. Why? Because it doesn't matter. You go and get registered on title for the entire amount. So at the end of the day, it really shouldn't matter what you're in for. You can feel free to ask us what it's going to be appraised for when it's done. Chances are if we're getting $250,000 from you, it's going to probably appraise around $280,000 to $290,000. That's usually our threshold. And that's what we try to aim for. For us, at the end of the day, we always look to make about $25,000 of profit on our side. This is after paying the legal costs and all the repairs and all of our holding costs and the investor's interest in order to make the deal profitable. Okay, so $250,000. So that's what the investor is going to put into the deal. We're going to run these as annual rate of returns, even though if you might get paid out 3 times throughout the year. Okay, so we're going to pay you a 10% annual rate of return. So at the end of the year, you're going to end up making $25,000. Okay, so this is very basic, right? You lent out $250,000, a 10% annual rate of return. You end up making $25,000. Therefore, at the end of year 1, you would then have $275,000 that you can turn around and work with. I'm getting the eye to do this. I like looking at my camera. That's the problem. Okay, so that's a traditional fund flip, okay? Traditional. Now let's go ninja.
Yeah. Woo-cha! We're going ninja. Woo-cha!
Okay. I
just need to play.
Okay. All right. So basically, let's just assume, let's use flat numbers here. Okay. Let's say that you had $200,000 cash. This could be an RRSP. This could be a LIRA. It doesn't matter. But essentially, it's got to be a larger pool of funds. And then we're going to assume that you had $50,000 in a TFSA. Okay. So again, same deal.
Better returns.
But we're going to go ninja on this one. Well, and is it better or is it just different? So we're going to say 200,000 cash. Again, this could be RRSP, could be LIRA, could be any really source. Could be a HELOC. And this is why it's kind of broken out for you, specifically for you. Okay, so this is going to be the first mortgage position. Then this is the Ninja side, which is the TFSA. So we're going to say $50,000 in your TFSA. Okay, so here, and we're going to literally put TFSA. So there's two separate sources. And once we have two separate sources, we're going to register them in two separate mortgage positions. Again, your deal, these are still your funds, you're going to combine them and you're going to be on the same deal. But the first mortgage position, the first mortgage position is going to be the higher amount of money, and the second mortgage position is going to be the lower amount of money. But in theory, we would owe you 10% on all that money, and we would owe you $25,000. Now, at the end of the day, if we broke out the interest rates on these two different sources of money, which we can do because they're separate mortgage positions, we can actually turn around and pay you 5.25% on the $200,000. And then on the $50,000, we're actually going to pay you 29%. And yeah, I said that right, 29%. So what this breaks out to in 1 year is you would actually end up making $10,500.
Yep.
In the first mortgage position on your cash, which is taxable income, right? But keep this in mind. If you actually used your home equity line of credit money to do this, you would actually get to write off your interest portion of the payment that you paid back to the bank. So let's just say that it was 3% or whatever. You would actually only get taxed on the difference of whatever you owed. So that's kind of a ninja tip right there itself, but that's not the ninja strategy. So on the $50,000 at 29%, you would actually earn $14,500. And because it's in your TFSA, guys, that's 100% tax-free. I don't know about you, but which one do you guys think is a better situation?
You're making money.
Right? So if you guys think it's a ninja, type ninja. All right? So this is why we're able to work with people where they're at, and we're able to turn around and work with you. So if you have 50,000 in your TFSA, if you have 40,000 in your TFSA, if you have 69,500 or 76,000, we want to be able to customize this for you. Again, it could go a million different ways, but it really doesn't make sense until we're actually talking about your specific numbers and your specific situation. What are your goals? What are you working with? Where are you coming from? That's what we want to do.
Ultimately, the best way to figure this out is you got to pick up the phone and you got to call us. And then that way it gets broken out for literally what your scenario is.
Yeah. And some people will say, how come 29%? And that's a great question, which I'll answer right now. So the rules within doing an arm's length mortgage is that you can make up to 30% annual rate of return on your funds before it's illegal and it is considered loan sharking. So some people don't know that, but if you're charging more than 30% annual rate of return on your funds, that's illegal, you're breaking the law. So that's why we do 29%. We just cap it off at that. And then for the minimum, the rules within an arm's length mortgage, and again, this is federally regulated. These are where these rules come from. You have to lend your money out and make a minimum of prime rate. So again, for this breakdown, we owed the investor $25,000. It just worked out that $14,500, which is we worked with what we knew, which is the $50,000 at 29. We still owe them $10,500, which meant that they earned 5.25%. So those numbers can change. This number and this number can change. This number and this number can change. But what's going to be fixed is the 10% return. That's the fixed number, right? So again, this is where when people are like, I don't get it. At the end of the day, give me your numbers and I'll show you real numbers that are prevalent to you and that pertain to you. We could talk hypothetical all day. So I hope this kind of makes sense to some people. I know
Break out the theory.
Yeah. I know I probably will still lose some people, but if you understand the theory behind it and you see where we're pulling these numbers from and you understand how this works, that's kind of the essence that we wanted to get across to people.
The real key to this is understanding that because you can put a couple of mortgage positions on a property, that's how we're able to make each transaction its own. Yeah. That's really the underlying theory here.
And don't forget, we can use up to 3 different sources. So even if you had, let's just use an example, say first was cash. And then second was RSP. And then the third was TFSA.
There you go.
That could work too. Or some people might have RSP and Alira and TFSA. It could be anything. Yep, question.
Alan is asking, was the minimum prime rate read the TFSA part or regarding the non-registered part?
It's Olympia Trust. So good question, actually. So for Olympia Trust, those are the rules within lending from an arm's length mortgage. And actually, you know what? I think we're going to wipe this. I'm going to go actually through how the Olympia Trust transaction works because we got a lot of questions with that. All right, and so can we wipe this? Just make sure if you guys are taking any pictures or whatever, take your picture. We'll be able to send you the recording too, so no pressure.
Yeah, and we will also email out a picture if people need help.
Okay, for sure. I'm sure we'll end up sharing this stuff at some point on social media. Who knows? So at the end of the day, what we always try to aim to do is to make sure that we're all staying within our tax regulation rules. So if you were lending money out
Piss off the government.
right? At the end of the day, if you were lending money out of your home equity line of credit, let's just say that your interest rate's 3%. So we would suggest that you're making at least 1% higher than that, right? So you're gonna make 4%, you get to write off the 3%, you're getting taxed on a marginal 1% of profit. Especially if you're doing the ninja strategy. Because I've had some clients where they're like, well, why can't I make nothing on my money in cash? And why can't I make all this money in the TFSA? Because that would be called fraud. Okay, so again, we always want to keep you guys out of jail, right? So that's our main concern. And at the end of the day, we always need to make sure that if anything were to happen and anybody were to get audited, that you would be able to explain, well, in theory, the first mortgage position is higher risk. Second mortgage position, is a higher risk, lower risk, sorry. First mortgage position, lower risk. Second mortgage position, second risk. Oh my God, I can't speak anymore.
So first mortgage position is the least amount of risk. Second mortgage position, riskier. Third mortgage position, riskier.
You can't speak either.
No.
Okay, we've had a long day, guys.
It's
I'm
really,
sorry,
really,
but yeah,
it's
it
been
is what it is.
intense. But
Okay, so
that's the best English you'll get from us at this hour.
yeah, you understand the theory. As long as you get that, then we're good. Do you have any questions?
Donna says, is there a minimum in either of the three sources?
So yeah, we usually say 25,000 is the minimum. And at the end of the day, if you're going to be leveraging money out of your Olympia Trust funds and you're going to only have 25,000, by the time they take the fees, it's really going to hit a large amount of that transaction.
Yeah.
And Dawn says, second option is the same percent return, but less tax to pay since TFSA. Am I getting this?
Yeah, you're basically creating free money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're getting it.
We like free money.
Yeah. So yeah, again, it's just kind of like one of those little loopholes, right? And again, this is why we turn around and we're trying to maximize our clients' returns. That's literally what we try to do. So again, there's a lot of people, tons of people out there that are like, oh, those girls, I know what they do. I'm like,
no, you don't.
Yeah, you're cute. You're cute, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Unless you've actually booked in a meeting with either Alyssa or myself or someone on our team, I can guarantee you have no idea what we're doing, because what we're doing is so next level in the fact that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people assume they know what we're doing, but they don't know. Right? And so that's where we love to have discovery session phone calls, because we would love to be able to tell you what it is exactly we're doing, how it might align with what you're doing. And if there is no alignment, at the end of the day, don't forget we have an amazing referral partner program where you can actually just earn $1,000 for every deal, where you just go around and tell people about who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
Please don't do that if you don't know what we're doing and you haven't booked in a discovery session phone call to find out for yourself first. So I'm just going to break down.
Well, one more question. Donna says, are the Olympia fees tax deductible?
You'd have to talk to your accountant. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
Okay, so let's just say that you have money in the stock market going like this. Is this kind of like what's been happening in the stock market the last week or two? I mean, pandemic and all. Oh, fun. So you want to get off this roller coaster. You're like, nah, I don't want to subscribe to this anymore. I'm out. And maybe you even take a little bit of a loss. Maybe you're getting out right here. Whatever. It has to make financial sense for you. I'm not going to tell you when to take your money out, when to put your money in. It doesn't make sense. But if you're done with it, book in a discovery call. We can talk. So let's just say that you had an RRSP. You're getting off of the crazy stock market train. We're over this now. So you're like, nope, stepping off. We're going to look for a different way. So what you would do here with your RSP is you would turn it into liquid cash within your RSP, and you would actually open up a new account at Olympia Trust. Okay, so at Olympia, and then you'd have to do a transfer in, okay? So transfer. So you're not withdrawing, you're literally just moving, okay? Once it's at Olympia, it becomes a self-directed account. Okay, so once it's in a self-directed account, you can actually choose what you want to invest in. And at the end of the day, what we prefer for you to invest in is in an arm's length mortgage with us on one of our fund flips. So what you would do here is if you said, oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
There we go. And so if you said, hey, Epic, I have my money, I'm ready to go, I want to do a fund to flip, amazing. So how we would acquire that and do this is called an arm's length mortgage. So with an arm's length mortgage, you can't own the property. That's why it means arm's length. It can't be you, and it can't be owned by you. It can't be owned by your children. It can't be owned by your parents. It has to be an arm's length. So as long as you are not related to us, then we can work together.
Yay!
So at the end of the day, we would facilitate this, and we've already talked about how this happens, but essentially your money's in a self-directed account. We would identify a project for you. You say, Epic, let's go, let's do this. So then we would actually do the paperwork, get you registered on title. So you get registered on title for this fund to flip property. And then therefore we get the money to turn around and buy the property. So you're registered on that property while we're borrowing your money that's came from your RRSP. And that's your security. So you know that in order for you to earn your money and get your money back, then you have to discharge the mortgage on here, but you would only discharge that mortgage if you were going to get paid back your full return. So some people will say, well, how can you guys afford to pay us 10% annual rate of return on our money? Why don't you guys just go to the bank? Again, for us, Alyssa and myself, we started with nothing, guys. We've always worked with private money. And at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but I hate the banks.
Mm-hmm.
So there's too much red tape. They just take a long time. If I go to
Time is
one
of the essence. When you're dealing with houses that are distressed, you can't go in and go, I really like this property, but I really, got to go talk to my banker. I got to wait till banking hours. Now I got to wait for them to move paper. We don't have time for that. It's like, hey, we got cash. We're here to buy this. Are you in? Are you out?
Exactly. And so because we have amazing investors who want to earn the 10% returns and they want to move quickly, that's where the magic happens. So we're able to get those really aggressively priced properties at a discounted rate, which is where we're able to bring in our crews, do the renovation. Again, we create our inventory with our hassle-free landlord houses, and then that's where the magic happens. So again, you are going to turn around, get your money back, because it's going to be sold, that project's going to be sold, your money's going to go back into your self-directed account. And then what happens when your money's back in here? You're going to do it all over again. And then we're just wrong way. That way. And then that way, you just keep it recycling. And so every time the money comes out of your RSP, it has to get put back into your RSP. And then you can decide if you want to compound, you want to pull it out, you want to do whatever.
And you keep recycling.
Woo! So that's it. Are there any final questions? We're tying up here, guys. We only have a couple minutes left. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I hope this was informational. I know this seems really confusing to a lot of you guys.
It's not. Just give us a call.
We're
We
gonna
promise we'll be friendly.
As long as you don't ask really stupid questions, because I can't
Don't do that.
No, I can't.
She just sends you to me, and I have more patience.
That's all.
We've got one question
Okay.
from Dawn. Is this how I get a higher return for the second position? By segmenting my contribution into cash, RSP for the first position at lower rate of return, and then TFSA for second position at 29%. And compound or recycle and accumulate over time.
That's exactly it. Thank
Bingo.
you, Dawn. That was very well said.
We should
and
repeat that. So.
Yeah, you should read it louder, actually.
Is this how I get a higher rate of return for my second position? By segmenting my contribution into cash, RRSP for the first position at a lower rate of return, and TFSA for the second position at 29%.
Yeah, that's
Ding,
brilliant.
ding, ding.
Our work here is done.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dawn equals Ann.
Oh, it was Anne.
I
Okay.
don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
So the RRSP cannot be used in Ninja.
the RSP,
Donna.
the RSP can. You
Yeah.
can use anything. And you know what? When we talked about this, like, don't forget, guys, this could be RSP, or it could be TFSA, or it could be Lyra, or could be a rip, or it could be like, we could go on for days, guys.
Yeah.
This could be anything. It could be anything. We have one client that's getting 29% in their RSP because they just want to defer their taxes. No big deal. Doesn't matter to us. Whatever your goals are, we can make happen.
Lori says, awesome explanation. I love my ninja flips.
Woo! Thanks,
And
Lori.
Eunice says, thanks for the presentation.
Thanks, Denise.
Thanks for sharing your time.
Yeah. Thank you guys for
And
being here.
learning how to make money.
Where's the Where's the ninja flip?
All right, and we got a little more flippy.
Don't forget. Ninja. No, guys, if you want to book in a call, please do that. And even if you feel like you are not ready to work with us right now, still book in a call,
You
because
never
when
know what'll come out of it.
you've got a plan, then all of a sudden you've got goals to attain to, you've got goals to aspire to. And at the end of the day, we've found a lot of hidden money for a lot of our clients that they never even factored in or thought was available to them. So sometimes people book in a call for a hassle-free landlord deal, and then they turn around and end up doing a ninja flip and a hassle-free or 2 or 3. It's really magical.
It is.
We look forward to spending time with you guys, and I hope you book in a call. And thank you guys so much for spending your evening with us. Stay
And stay
epic!